Back in 2010, developer Frictional Games set the tone for PC indie horror with Amnesia: The Dark Descent. With Amnesia Rebirth, it feels like Frictional has finally refined its story-driven, atmospheric approach to horror. You're trapped in a deadly, smothering world, struggling against your character's limitations and even her perceptions. Rebirth is Frictional's best game yet, marrying a deep, mysterious story to the signature mechanics the developer has been working with over the course of 13 years of horror games. Amnesia Rebirth continues Frictional's specific approach to story and horror, which emphasizes avoiding conflict, hiding, and mastering your character's own fear. It adds to the story of The Dark Descent, although you don't need to know that game well to follow this narrative, and it doesn't connect to Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs at all. You play as Tassie Trianon, a French woman who joins a mining expedition to Algeria in 1937. In the opening moments of the game, the expedition's plane experiences some supernatural shenanigans that cause it to crash in the desert. Tassie wakes up soon after alone in the plane, with few memories of what happened and strange black tendrils creeping into her vision. As she goes searching for survivors, she discovers that the strange bracelet she's wearing can open portals to a dark, ruined parallel world. Tassie goes searching through caves and tunnels for her friends, and the story often pulls her into the alternate dimension as she tries to find her way forward. Rebirth brings back the main mechanics from The Dark Descent, and really, all of Frictional's games deal in similar sets of ideas. You trace the survivor's path, gathering notes and uncovering clues as to what happened. You're quickly plunged into darkness, which increases Tassie's fear and affects her psyche. If Tassie gets too scared, the blackness overtakes her, causing her to wake up somewhere else with no memory of how she got there. The more frightened Tassie becomes, the less reliable her perceptions. You start to see frightening flashes across the screen as she becomes more terrified. And Rebirth plays off your inability to see much around you with sound design that emphasizes the echoing, oppressive nature of the places you work through. Just as things are starting to get spooky or dangerous, images start to flash in your vision to create jump scares, and the addition of sound and movement in your periphery makes it tougher to trust your senses. You're often hearing things that might be lurking just outside of your vision, and Rebirth increases your terror by making it difficult to tell if those things are hallucinations, ambient noise, or actual dangers waiting in the dark. To fight the fear, you're always on the hunt for light. Finding books of matches all over the environment you can use to push back the darkness. Matches quickly burn out, but you can use them to ignite torches, candles, sconces, and other light sources as you explore. You'll spend a lot of your time lighting every flammable thing you can find, but this has the drawback of leaving you with fewer places to hide from whatever is making those upsetting chewing sounds somewhere beyond your vision. Like Frictional's other games, you can interact with most everything you see in Rebirth using your mouse or controller to simulate motions like pushing open doors or moving objects. You use those physical interactions to solve puzzles that block your progress. While none of the puzzles are especially difficult, it's definitely possible to get stalled out as you search for a solution that's not immediately intuitive. For the most part though, the obstacles Rebirth throws in your path are inventive without being annoying. While you're exploring, you'll also have to contend with actual terrors hiding in the shadows. You can't fight the monsters skittering in the dark, you can only hide or flee from them. That leads to a variety of frightening chases and stealthy moments as you sneak past something horrifying while it hunts you, balancing using shadows to hide yourself and keeping Tassie's fears from overwhelming her. It's in these brushes with supernatural horrors that Rebirth represents the biggest step forward for Frictional Games. Your only measure for how Tassie is faring is her increasing heart rate and the black encroaching across her vision as her fear rises. But if a creature catches you, it doesn't kill you, forcing you to reload a checkpoint and pretend nothing happened. Instead, if things get bad enough, the black tendrils overtake Tassie and you find yourself somewhere else. It might sound like the lack of deadly enemies means it lacks stakes, but the game still does a great job of creating frightening moments. But it removes the frustration of having to replay a section after dying, and it feels like a natural evolution from Frictional's past games. This is a game about a spooky story, and while horror games work to create moments of fear and tension, a lot of what makes them scary gets ruined by playing the same section of the game over and over. Storytelling is Rebirth's real focus, although the intricate tale it tells is undercut somewhat by the limitations of small games and the trappings of first-person horror. Most of the game is about Tassie finding her way alone, reading notes, and remembering tidbits of stories that happened off-screen. Those flashbacks are largely presented as dialogue over drawings, and that can make it tough to understand or connect with the many characters mentioned along the way. Tassie's personal story, which focuses on her experiences as a mother, is a lot stronger. her relationships with her daughter and her husband, and the traumas of her past inform a lot of her actions as Rebirth progresses. Although it's not until late in the game that you really start to understand Tassie as a character thanks to her amnesia. Rebirth is unabashedly a mom game, and it's at its best when Tassie's personal journey intersects with the supernatural.
Precious June, and look at you.
Though sneaking past or fleeing from monsters is often harrowing, there are moments when encounters won't quite terrify. The creatures sometimes seem a bit dumb as you slip past them, and one or two chases move fairly slowly, making it apparent you're really not in as much danger as the game would like you to believe. The limitation that you can't actually look at enemies because it drives up Tassie's fear can also seem a bit arbitrary at times, with a few moments that wouldn't be very scary or challenging if you could actually see what you're avoiding. Still, Amnesia Rebirth feels like the culmination of Frictional Games horror titles up to this point. It refines the ideas and mechanics that have been central to the developers' games all along, it hones in on effective scares while avoiding the frustrations of failure, and it tightens the focus on character-driven storytelling. Amnesia Rebirth is an unsettling, strange, tragic story that deepens the Amnesia mythos in a lot of cool ways while managing to be just as creepy and frightening as its beloved predecessor.